Welcome to the Made2Homeschool Podcast. My name's Brandon, and my wife and I are the founders of Made2Homeschool. This is part one of my two-part conversation with our new friend, Sam Sorbo. Sam's an education freedom advocate and the host of the Sam Sorbo Show. She's an award-winning actress and filmmaker, best-selling author, and host of School's Out with Sam Sorbo on Epic TV. She's home educated with 3 children for over a decade. Her books, They're Your Kids, Teach from Love, a school year devotional for families, Words for Warriors, and The Playbook for Home Learning, and her films are available at sorbostudios.com. Her newest book on education, The Parent's Guide to Homeschool, launches in late 2024. If you're new to our podcast, the important thing to know is that Made2Homeschool is a community and resource library first and foremost. You can find it at Made2Homeschool.com, where we offer monthly and annual plans for every budget and linked wherever you find these episodes. The purpose of this podcast so far has really been to share unique journeys of interesting people influencing the homeschool space online and, we hope, to bring encouragement and maybe some new wisdom to the folks listening. This conversation with Sam touched on a lot of topics, and I can't wait to hear from you about all you're taking away from it. Let's get into it. Sam, thank you so much for joining me on here today for the podcast. I'm really glad this finally worked out for us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's good to see you again.
Thanks. Well, we got the chance to meet just a few months ago with my wife, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. But we knew you were an advocate for homeschooling for quite a while. We were stunned by how that carried over in that conversation, and not just in a, yeah, I believe in it, but you're like, no, this is right. We love this. Our family loves this. I did this. You don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. And I think that matters for people, especially when they know about your background. And walking from where y'all lived, the area you were in, the people you're surrounded by, becoming part of the homeschool community. I'd love if starting out, we could just go back and maybe you can share a little bit about, for those who maybe don't know, maybe share just a minute about your background and when you started to entertain the idea of homeschooling in general for your family.
Well, so for me, we moved for the schools. Okay. We wanted better schools for our kids, so we moved. And we were in a very good, in air quotes, a very good public school for 2 years with my oldest, first and second grade. And I did not like what was coming home, both in terms of the homework that they were sending home, the book work that was being done in the classroom, but also just the attitude of my little boy and how he was changing as a result of socializing with all of those kids. He was very popular. And so it wasn't like a matter of bullying. I just didn't like his attitude. But more importantly, I really didn't like what the school was doing to me as the parent. So they put me in the role of, in a sense, substitute teacher when we traveled. They gave me the stuff that they never required the boy to do in class, which made me the evil substitute teacher, right? I mean, it's just bad. It was a bad situation. And so I said to Kevin, my husband, I think I could fail at homeschooling and he'll still be better off. And that holds true more today than then, frankly. So I make no bones about it. I did not do it properly. I did it the best that I could. I did it the best that I knew how. I felt very blessed. I discovered classical conversations and the classical Christian curriculum. That was a real boon to me, but it wasn't until my daughter, I was 6 or 7 years into it before I realized I'm not the teacher and I shouldn't aspire to be the teacher. And that changed my entire outlook. And so now I've gone really, really far into the weeds on this. I advocate wholeheartedly for only home education. I don't consider the exceptions to the rule. What about rape and incest exceptions? I don't consider them. That's not my purview. That's unfortunate. It's their problem. But you will never hear me say, oh, well, then school is really the best choice. I will never. I can't say that. I think that school is anti-education. It's anti-child. It certainly is anti-boy. It is so devastation. It wreaks such devastation on our young people. And it's interesting because my daughter got into a conversation with some homeschoolers the other day. And one of them said, well, she knew an 8-year-old girl who didn't even know how to read yet. And so her position was that 8-year-old really should go to school. And I go, but if you don't know how to read and you're 8 and you get sent to school, you're the stupid kid. You're going to be bullied. People are going to make fun of you. The last thing you're going to do is learn to read at that point, unless you accidentally happen upon some really wonderful, teacher who just pours out love and enthusiasm on a child, on this one particular child. That's the needle in the haystack. The child might as well look for new parents at that point. And in fact, my solution to that situation is you get off your butt and teach the girl to read for an hour a week. Teach her how to read. It doesn't take that much time. We have lost faith. Full stop, we've lost faith. We've lost faith in our children. We've lost faith in God. God created them. Curious. Our children will learn naturally as long as we get out of the flippin' way. But because we all went to school and we learned, oh, this is what learning is, and this is how it's done with a teacher, we're so afraid to take our hands off the wheel and allow our children to self-guide. And I don't mean no intervention whatsoever, parents just butt out and we go to the unschooling platform. See, I don't criticize unschooling, but I'm not there. So I'm not advocating for unschooling. I'm just saying our job as parents is really to help our children discover who they are in Christ, and then get out of the way, set them on the right track, and then get off the track and maybe offer some pit stops on their journey, but not to lay the track for them necessarily. Help lay the track for them, right? So, I get a little jumbled in my analogies sometimes, but I think I'm being relatively clear. So,
Sam, yeah, no, that was clear. I do a lot of mixing my analogies too. You're totally fine. I get laughed at. You're good. You just gave me so much that I want to ask about, which is tremendous. Can I go back a little bit? Can I ask, when was it that you made that transition to homeschooling, Sam?
Yes.
And was there a specific set of circumstances or incidents that happened in the better school, I'm using air quotes here, that you had that made you say, no, we have to make this jump?
Okay, so this lovely little public school in a lovely little community, we traveled a little bit, and so we took our kids out of school at one point for 3 weeks because my husband was shooting a movie, and I had the work with me. And on the first day, I put the work down in front of my son, and he said, "Oh, Mommy, we don't have to do this. Teacher says we don't have to do this." And I said, "Well, she gave it to me for you to do, so I guess in this case you do have to do it." And he said, "But Mommy, she tells us we don't have to do this. She says we don't have to do," right? So then all of a sudden I'm the substitute teacher. I'm the evil one because teacher says he doesn't have to do it, but I'm saying he does. Even if I blame the teacher, and I've lost my authority because I've come under the authority of the teacher. So, sweetie, I'm just doing what teacher tells me to do. And I didn't like that. That did not sit right with me. And then I looked at it and I went, well, of course she doesn't tell you to do this. This is bull crap. This is stupid. This is stupid homework. This is only busy work. There's no reason for you to ever do this in the classroom, outside the classroom. There's no reason to be doing this. And so I crumpled it up and threw it away. No, I didn't throw it away. I think maybe I did it and turned it in, because the deal with the school, and so this is what sort of woke me up and got me a little bit skeptical of the whole thing. The deal with the school is you can take time off as long as you prep them so they can give you the work to take with you, and then you bring the work back so that they can collect the money. They never even look at the work. They just need the money. So to add to that, my son had turned in a book report every month for 5 months. So he turned in his 5th book report. And I call myself the guilty parent because I was in the classroom all the time. I would help her clean up after class. I would teach art in the classroom, which was a fairly substantial commitment. I would take the kids to the library for her. I would grade papers for her. Like, I participated because I wanted to be involved. I wasn't going to be like, oh, I'm going to go have my mimosa now. You do you, And so we turned in our 5th book report, never got one back. So I was helping her clean up after school. And I said, by the way, how are Braden's book reports? And she, quick as a wink, oh, not very good. I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? She said, oh, no, his book reports are not very good at all. I'm like, you've received 5 of them and you've never told me that they're not up to par. I said, wait, so show me one that's like, show me a good one. She said, oh, sure. Okay. And she walks over to her little folder and she pulls out a book report, and it's a pre-designed form that the child fills in. And this book report is written in cursive that is, I don't write that well. I actually would defy the person to produce the child who wrote that. That was written by an adult, but I didn't see that at the time. But I was mortified. My child is slovenly, listless. He's a terrible child. Like, clearly, if this is the level that she's expecting, my child is a big fat loser with an L on his foreleg. It's terrible. And I was so convicted. I went home and I'm like, we have to do book report. We have to do book. Every day we're going to do book report. Like, I was upset. And so we did book report every day after school. And I stood over him and I'm like, no, you may not just copy the first sentence of the chapter. You have to read the chapter and then you need to summarize what was it that happened in the chapter. And so we tried that for, well, let's see. So that was 5 months in. So month 6, 7, and 8, right? Roughly 8 months in school, something like that. So we did 3 of those and it was drudgery. And then I started to realize, that form really doesn't accomplish much. What's he learning to write? Like, okay, you read and then you summarize, but I don't know that that's really a great skill. He's not learning how to write per se. He's just, so I was a little bit disillusioned with that. And then I was just like, this must be homeschooling. I'm just doing it at the end of the day when I'm tired, he's tired, I'm cranky, I'm hungry. Like, this is probably not the winningest recipe for education. And that's when I started to consider there must be an alternative. And that's how I got to home educating all my kids, but not without putting each of my second and my third child through kindergarten, which was a half-day kindergarten for a full year. It was free. I'm like, they'll make friends. Well, guess what? Not every kid wants friends. So where Braden was super, super popular, so in the 1st grade, all the 5th graders knew his name. I kid you not. And he made all of his own play dates in 1st grade using my phone. He would call, he would talk to the parents. He would make the play date. The parents would drive to my house and go, oh, are you okay with this? Because I just realized I didn't talk to you about dropping little Timmy off. I'm like, yes, I'm fine. We speak. It's fine. My other 2 are introverts. They only wanted one friend and it killed them, I think, to be in class. And it was every day. And so eventually my second one just broke down one day, didn't want to go. And so I had a full week, 2 weeks of research to make sure he wasn't being bullied or there wasn't something untoward happening in the classroom or whatever. Nope, he was just tired. He just really had nothing to say to those people that day. They did, against my wishes, they put him in an afternoon kindergarten and he did like to nap. And so there was nothing I could do about that because once they assign you, you're not allowed, parent. You butt the heck out. We're running the show. That's the way the schools approach it. So I didn't appreciate that. But at the point that he started, well, he would have been kindergarten when Braden was 2nd grade. And so his experience or our experience with the kindergarten culture phenomena would have fed into my desire to homeschool, because I was realizing that kind of wasn't great. And then let's see. So a year into homeschooling, then Tavy rotated into kindergarten. And I will tell you that she told me just a couple years, she's 18 now. So when she was 16 and a half, she said to me, now she's brilliant, but not in the ways that I'm smart. And so it took me a long time to figure out how to manage that, how to communicate with that, because she vibrates on a different level. I can't quite understand it, but she is brilliant and she comes up with brilliant things. She says brilliant things and I say, my gosh, that's so, hold on, I need to write that down because that is like super clever. She always thought I was lying to her, because she said she figured it out that in kindergarten, that's where she learned that she was stupid. She went to half-day kindergarten for one school year, missed a lot of classes because we traveled. But that's one day in that classroom was where she learned that she was stupid. And I was battling that for 10 years and didn't know it. And so I tell parents, you know, it takes one day, it takes one person in authority to say the wrong thing, even unwittingly. So, and I'll tell you what happened. They were doing sight word reading, and Tavy struggled a little bit with, you know, D and B and F's and S's and whatever. And she had planned to do a perfect rendition of all the words, and she did not accomplish that. And the classroom laughed. And the teacher probably laughed too. And so probably, I don't remember, but probably when I picked her up, it was as banal as, oh, by the way, we did sight word reading today and she goofed up a little bit. You might want to work with her on those at home. But it was funny. Everybody laughed and it was funny. But yeah, so maybe work with her a little bit, right? It was as banal as that. It just wasn't, it was a no big deal.
But words have such power for a child at that age.
Well, laughter does, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe it was funny. Like, I don't doubt that it was funny, but it hurt her tremendously. And so she's been battling that insecurity and, you know, young women are insecure anyway, like, and she finally kind of figured it out. And so now at least she can sort of talk herself out of it or something like that. So she's been working on that. But you asked me when I made the shift, and there's a story there that relates to her, actually. She's an artist, and my first one's an actor, and I'm an actress, so I can do that. I can teach that. Like, I can guide him. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I watched you on TV as a young man and didn't even know it, but I remember now. Yeah.
My second one is an engineer. He eventually opted not to go to engineering school, but he's an engineer in his head. We think a lot alike, a lot. And so when he was coming into his own, I was like, yep, engineering, because I went to school for engineering. Like, I can do that. I can guide him to go to college if that's what he wants to do, and I can figure that out. But my third one's an artist, and I kind of hit my knees and I said, God, I think, you know, I'm not criticizing or anything, but I think you made a mistake because I don't know how to teach that. And somebody, because my prayer life tends to enter into my real life, somebody said to me, you know, maybe she should have an anatomy class. And I was like, that's brilliant. I will delegate my role as teacher to an anatomy class, right? And I run up to Tavy's room and I suggest that, and she gives me this sort of, well, bless your heart, you know, kind of a look. And she shows me her sketchbook. And in her sketchbook, she's already sketching the interior workings of the human knee, you know, with labels. Like, she is already at 11 years old teaching herself anatomy. And I looked at her and I said, you're teaching yourself? And she said, yeah, I mean, I'm an artist. I need to know anatomy. Like, duh. And that was my big epiphany. Like, get out of the way, Sam. Who do you think you are? You're so great that you can teach everybody. Like, who do you think you are? We have such hubris as parents. We think we know everything. We know we don't know everything, but we still allow ourselves this illusion that somehow we're in charge for our kids. No, we have the privilege of being facilitators. We have the tremendous responsibility of backing off and allowing, right? And so, and I will grant you, it is a tender balance that we have to hit, right? We need to not be too controlling, but not be too laissez-faire. So like all three of my kids wanted to quit piano. There's one answer to that. It's a very short word. No. That's it. They all wanted to quit Latin at one point or another. No. Why? Because sometimes doing the hard thing is the right thing to do. And they came at me with all the arguments. Latin's a dead language and it's killing me and, all that stuff. But I determined that Latin was one of the hills I would die on. And so that was it. But there were lots of other hills that I didn't die on, right?
But you had the freedom to do that because it was your educational system, because you were home educating. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I do want to point out to parents, I worked full time. I mean, which is not to sing my own praises. I just want to point out, I was probably the laziest parent because I refused to do the bake sales. I didn't pack lunches. I didn't get up early in the morning to drive them to drop off or go in the afternoon to, except for the first 2 years. I took it easy on myself. Like I was super lazy. But I enjoyed reading to my kids, and I enjoyed for a while there, every day for lunch, we watched a documentary. We watched a nature video, and that was like, yay, I like that. That's learning too, So I'm not saying that it's hard work. It wasn't hard work. It was wonderful. And it should be. And it's funny because I was proselytizing to somebody this morning. He's got 3 beautiful boys, and one boy is really struggling with the whole school thing. And I said to him, that's because school hates boys. And our culture hates children, and he's like agreeing with me. And he's saying, yeah, I think maybe I should take my middle child out of school. And I'm like, you should take them all out of school. Like, at what point is child abuse okay? Just a little child abuse, but not this much child abuse. Like, come on. So, yeah, we need to rethink what we're doing. And the thing I was going to say is I said to him, don't do anything for a little while except read some good books with your kids, but back off because they've been abused by the system telling them it's time to learn. And the system says, put that book down that you're interested in because now it's math time. That's the worst thing you can do. I don't like it when somebody does it to me. Like if I'm busy writing an article and my husband comes in and says, hey, can you come outside and look at this thing for me or whatever? I'm like, no, I'm busy.
Sam,
but we do it to kids all day long.
You said something again that I wrote down here. I've written a bunch of notes so far. One of the things you said was school hates boys. You said it's anti-boy. I'm with you, and I want to dig into that, but there's a couple questions that need to precede that, but I'm going to have to take a quick break, and we'll be right back and dive into that.
Spark your child's love of learning as they experience the awe and wonder of God's creation with Apologia's elementary science curriculum. The award-winning Young Explorer series for grades K through 6th is written using the Charlotte Mason method to draw students into an engaging study of nature and science. Learning comes to life on the page with textbooks written in a conversational style directly to the student. Narration prompts invite students to share in their own words what they have learned. Notebooking journals encourage young scientists to record their observations in the world around them and complete hands-on activities to open up the world of science. Auditory learners will enjoy the companion audiobook option, so students can listen while coloring, riding in the car, or enjoying an outdoor picnic. Each of the 8 titles in the Young Explorer series is written for learners of different age levels, so science can be learned together as a family. Discover Apologia's award-winning elementary science curriculum at apologia.com/explore.
All right, Sam, before I went to a break, I was telling you how excited I am to ask you about a few things, but one of the first ones is, can you clarify for me what year roughly it was when you guys transitioned into homeschooling?
2008?
Okay.
9?
So
yeah, somewhere in there.
20-aughts, like the first decade of, this new century.
Yeah.
And in that time, you guys are still mostly in California, right?
That's correct.
Okay. When I think California, I don't think homeschool friendly. That's not the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh,
Right. So what was that like for you in the circles you hung around in, friends, family? How did they respond to that? Did you have support? Did you have aggression?
okay. So, so a couple things. One, people tend not to challenge me. They just don't. Like, people tend not to challenge me. Two, I already knew people who were homeschooling, and I went out on my own. But I had close girlfriends who had taken. I had one good girlfriend who had already taken her kids out of school. Then she ended up putting them back in school, which I was like, "You're a traitor," and back and forth a little bit. So actually, where we lived, it was quite fluid, I will say. Politically, the area where we lived ran about a 50-50 split. And there was a very vibrant, I will say, homeschool community.
Okay.
Very vibrant. Also, California is probably one of the easiest states to homeschool in. You are not required to file anything but your personal school affidavit if that's the way you choose to go. And so there's very little requirements except keeping attendance records is the only thing. So it was actually super easy, and I fell in with some really great people within 2 years. I also didn't need to have a bunch of people. Like, we were fine. And one thing that I will say is that when you start to, because I traveled a lot too, right? So it wasn't like I needed my posse around all the time, because I couldn't have that anyway. When you travel a lot and you bring the kids home, there's a cohesion that happens naturally that is brilliant. It answered all my prayers. It answered prayers I didn't know I had. My kids started to get along. We had a blast. I can't even. Now, at the same time, I was under a great deal of stress because I had to get it right. I had to, if I failed, my kids were going to be stupid, and I was clearly going to be an idiot if I failed. And so I did not feel capable. I just felt like as long as I failed gracefully, I would still be better off than if the kids were in school. So, I set about obviously not to fail. I found some really fantastic curricula, I should say, that really helped me get started. And then I started to realize that it's just not rocket science, but it took me a little while. And then I found classical conversations, and it was like, it really was the answer to a prayer, because I am an academic. Just in my mindset, even though I hated school got into me, and I am fully infested with that, right? And so I schooled my kids up until the point when my daughter taught me that I'm not the teacher. So being the teacher, but honestly, being the teacher is just not that hard. All the answers are in the book, as long as you have the patience. And, these people who say, well, I don't have the patience. I'm like, it's a virtue. I don't know if I'd go bragging about lacking a virtue. Like, I don't go around bragging that I'm a kleptomaniac. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's be careful with our words. I struggle with patience. Okay, so that's something that you struggle with. Why don't you adopt some techniques to be more patient? And maybe you will learn patience. And I will tell you, patience is there's a reason that it's a virtue. Like, it's a really good virtue. I happen to have patience enough for a lot of people. Like, I just naturally am a super patient person. And so for me, that was never a struggle. I shouldn't say never, not often a struggle. I think all new or recent parents have their moments, because we just don't have it dialed in yet. We just haven't figured out that it's not about us. Stop being a narcissist. Children are children, that kind of thing. So it did take me a little while. I don't ever put up this sort of facade of, well, I was perfect. Why can't everybody else be perfect?
That's so valuable. I think people need to hear that from you. That's great.
Oh yeah. I flew off the handle at times, there were times that were ugly. So I don't want to, give people the impression that I didn't struggle. I struggled.
But you persevered is what you're saying, I think.
I persevered
through it.
and I learned so much. And so now, my mission is to shortcut it for people. And so like the gentleman I talked to today with the 3 boys, I said, first thing I said, how old are they? And he told me, and I said, are they in school? And he said, yes. And now he has no idea who I am. I've literally just met this man, but this is how I operate. He goes, yes. And I said, ooh. And he goes, oh, they're in Christian school. And I go, ooh. He goes, really? And I'm like, well, school bad.
Is that what you said? You said school bad.
School bad.
Okay.
School bad. I said, it's anti-boy. And he goes, well, yes, it is. I go, so why are you doing that to them? And it puts people on edge because they don't know how to handle it, because it's true. And they know that it's true. Most of the people I talk to, and in fact, I said this to him, I said, you understand, I'm just mirroring back to you what you know. I'm just affirming for you that you know the things that you know, because you know this. He knew it all. He was already there. Now, there are a lot of people who aren't there, but I've had plenty of people come up to me and say, you're going to tell me blah, 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 blah. So I go, okay, blah, 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 blah. Now take your kids out of school. You know what I mean? Like they literally, they already know. But we need to hear it from another source. I think we just sort of need that. We need, we have our fears or whatever, and we need them acknowledged and confirmed before we can act. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Sam, I think there's so much there that needs to be expounded on, way more than we have possibly the time for. But a couple of things that I think are true universally. One is, I asked you all about your homeschool journey, and what you did was do just that. You gave me a journey that you went on. It wasn't, oh, I had this epiphany and in one day I changed everything. There were a series of things. There was a pathway, right?
Yeah.
There was a journey for you. And it was
Yeah.
the same for us. We got to know some homeschool families. We learned more about it. The obvious questions were answered, and then the not so obvious questions were answered. And then we saw some things with my daughter's pre-K 4 class. And we just took her out real fast. I was like, nope, we're going to figure it out. Like, we had the reason to just figure it out. And I think that a lot of folks go on that journey. But one of the things that you said early on, and repeated it a number of times, I want to dig into, and I think people want to hear about, is what you mean when you say that school hates boys. Now, if you guys want to hear about that, you have to make sure you come back for part 2 next week. We'll see you then.